So we know many Americans growing increasingly concerned about the fiscal health of our nation. We saw that in polling numbers moments ago with Frank Luntz. Lawmakers now facing some difficult decisions. As we told you moments ago, there's already talk of possible tax increases, but what about spending cuts? Indiana Congressman Mike Pence is the House Republican Conference chairman. We normally see him in the marble walls behind him on Capitol Hill. Today here in our beautiful studio in New York. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Last hour, Martha interviewed Chris Christie. He's the Republican governor of New Jersey. You know, when he won November a year and a half ago, it was a bit of an earthshake across this country. He's doing a difficult thing. He's taken on all these unions in New Jersey and trying them to cut back, so much to try and balance the books, because New Jersey, as small as it is a state that's driving up billions of dollars in debt every year. Here is his challenge to unions, and I want to get you to react to it with Martha from earlier.
Should you have to pay a small percentage of that pension towards your health benefits in retirement? I think the answer should be yes. And I think most New Jerseyans would say the same thing.
Right.
This year, Martha, $823 million in retiree health benefits. That's what it's costing the state just for retiree teacher health benefits.
Mind-blowing.
This is crazy, and we can't afford it anymore.
Okay, he's trying to change this. Can he, or is it wishful thinking?
Well, I think it is. It's the right wish, and yes, he can. And the reason he can, Bill, is because his historic election in New Jersey, Governor McDonald's historic election in Virginia, Scott Brown's historic election in Massachusetts, all give evidence of the fact that the American people are tired of the borrowing, the spending, the bailouts, and the takeovers, and they're saying enough is enough. And they want to see leaders like Governor Christie, like my own Governor Mitch Daniels in Indiana, who are willing to do the hard thing, who are willing to lead and make the decisions necessary to put our fiscal house in order.
I think what we're finding here, and you were watching our segments throughout the morning here, what you find here is that Americans believe they're going to be paying more money in taxes. It's a question of when and by how much.
Right.
Correct?
Well, look, you know, the American people, many people were born in the morning, but not yesterday morning. I mean, we saw this massive Obamacare business passed, which, despite what was promised, it was a deficit spending bill because of things that they left out and because entitlements always cost more than they're projected. I think we've got about a $13 trillion national debt right now. It is remarkable to me that this administration was actually boasting that this year's deficit was not going to be as large as we expected. I mean, only in Washington, D.C. would you celebrate the second largest deficit in American history. I mean, the American people know there's only one choice. You're either going to produce leadership that makes the hard choices like Governor Christie is prepared to make, like Republicans in Congress are prepared to make, or you're going to see higher taxes or inflated dollars, which is another form of taxation.
And what you're referring to there is this Washington Post article that says the deficit will not be as high as we thought. Maybe 1.3 trillion as opposed to 1.6 trillion. Yeah. Give or take $1 billion here and $1 billion there.
It's the second largest deficit in American history. And you know, $1 trillion, I like to remind people, $1 trillion is $1 million. So we're running only $1.3 million short. The American people have had it. They want to see us get back to what works.
$1 million?
$1 trillion is $1 million. And we're now going to run a $1.3 trillion deficit this year. Only in Washington, D.C.
Well,
is that good news.
But it's my sense that the American people are reacting to that. Listen, I was given a flood of literature from your office. You're asking for a lot of things right now. Statements on unemployment numbers right now, the so-called jobs bill, get rid of the earmarks. I mean, what's the chance that Washington, between now and November, does something that helps the struggling business owner, that helps the unemployed?
Well, I mean, you'd have to ask the political handicappers that question. And I'll tell you is, you know, the American people know what's necessary to get this economy moving again. It's fiscal discipline in Washington, D.C. first, and then it's fast-acting tax relief for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We know John F. Kennedy did it, Ronald Reagan did it, George W. Bush did it after the towers fell. You do across-the-board tax relief. You embrace fiscal discipline in Washington, D.C. It's like I say, you know, get government under control, get government out of the way, and America will come roaring back.
I don't hear any of that out of Washington.
You don't. What you're hearing now is more borrowing, more spending, more deficits, more takeovers. They got this financial services bill that is actually a permanent bailout bill. In a very real sense, I think the fact that this administration is celebrating a $1.3 trillion deficit proves that this administration, this Congress, just doesn't get it.
Would you give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, listen, it's better than going in the other direction? which is the direction we've been headed for 2 years.
The only reason the deficit is better, Bill, frankly, is because that we aren't, apparently TARP is not costing as much as they thought it would. It isn't any reflection on fiscal discipline in Washington.
The banks are paying back the money they owe.
Or policies. It's just
the reason I ask you about the elections in November, do you think the really difficult decisions on tax hikes will come after November's vote?
Well, I mean, the president put together this bipartisan commission to deal with, you know, the long-term costs of government entitlements. They're not required to report until after the elections. So, you know, my bet is you know, that we're going to see discussion of a value-added tax. We're going to see discussion of alternative taxation proposals, but it's all going to come after Election Day. But the American people are not going to be fooled. Bill, I'm just going to tell you, the American people get it. They know we have to put our fiscal house in order. And I believe Congress is either going to get the message before Election Day or they're going to get the message on Election Day.
Mike Pence, the Republican from Indiana. Nice to see you in person.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for your time today. To be continued, as we say, till November. Thank you, sir.